is Antonio Edward at MobiCast, and I just want to say that I'm very happy to. Let me start that over again, please.
The show begins now.
Okay. I'll just keep the recording going. MobiCast. This is Antonio Edward, and I want to thank you for joining me once again on the quest for discussing mobile phones. You can find me at mobicast.mobi for those of you who are streaming this or listening to this podcast on a different website like iTunes, Podcast Alley, Podcast Pickle, and there's a bunch of others. If you're listening to it there, just go to mobicast.mobi. I welcome everybody to always comment on the site, to make your own suggestions, to say, hey, this is my own opinions about what you just said. I feel that Microsoft Tag is better than QR code. Oops, nah. I just did a poll recently where it's only a few people that did the poll, but most people prefer QR code over Microsoft Tag, and that's kind of surprising, simply because in my own personal opinion, I do believe that Microsoft Tag is or should be the superior barcode system here in America. However, I'm not going to ditch the QR code either. I'm not going to ditch it at all, simply because I feel that QR code also has an importance here. Simply because there are a lot of countries where if I was doing business in Japan, I would definitely stick with QR code, and that's it. Well, about this website, I want to thank you for joining today. And today I have a very special guest. His name is Angelo Fernando, and he runs his own company called Public Radius. He is the strategic communications and PR person. He's also the CEO of his own company and president. And I want to welcome him to the show after the break. And we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. We're simply talking about the future of mobile. And there was a link that Alyssa Milano placed in the Twitter feed. In this article discussed a very spiritual, I'm not going to say spirituals per se, but it was kind of spiritual actually, and but very in-depth input on what the future holds for the internet and what we're expecting to see. And I mean, everything from mobile devices to implants in the brain and the eyeballs, where we can visually see the internet on our eyes. We can search for things. We're connected to the GPS network, and it's a lot of interesting sci-fi stuff. But keep in mind that when you watch movies like Star Trek, Star Wars, and Battlestar Galactica, and any other sci-fi film of the I guess I have to say the 70s, the 80s, the 60s, and even the 90s, that stuff is coming to fruition right now. And the thing is that mobile technology is our next step. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the pad in Star Trek. They always carry around a pad. Well, let's go back even further to the TOG, the original, or TOS, the original series. In the original series of Star Trek, Kirk had a little communicator, and he will flip it open like a flip phone. And the first flip phone that I can remember was the Motorola PC 550. I think it was called. And it's very interesting that that phone was one of the most popular phones of the, I guess I have to say, the mid-90s. It was inexpensive. It wasn't cheap, but it was inexpensive. The cell phone plans were high, but a lot of people were using those phones for emergency use only. They just wanted to have a phone in the car. This is after the car phone age, where car phones were way too much money. So Motorola first came up with the brick phone. Then they came up with this really big, humongous flip phone. And then they came up with a smaller flip phone, which I believe was called a PC 750. And then, of course, a lot of other companies like AudioVox. I'm going to ring a lot of bells, or I'm going to basically bring you back to the middle 90s when the internet first came out, and we were on these cell phones. And I remember having contacts on my phone, but it was a numerical display. So basically, even though I had contacts, I had to literally remember, okay, 01 was for home, 02 is for my mother, 03. I always had 06 for my girlfriend. Think about what happens after the 6. Yeah, 6. I'm not going to say it. 6. Okay. In the Army, they call it Niner. Military, actually. Military phonetics. But anyway, so I always had 6 for my girlfriend. 5 was my best friend, and my best friend is Jules Christian. And I had I remember having, and you just have to remember what number it was. Think back that far. Just take yourself back to the night. For those of you who were born in 1990, don't even skip this part of the podcast, because you guys will not remember this probably. Because by the time you got old enough to where your parents bought you a cell phone, maybe at age 10, and cell phone rates were a lot cheaper. They came up with family plans and all that stuff. You had phones that were able to do a lot more. You had a contact list that was stored on a SIM card. You were able to, do simple, like a calculator on there maybe. You had like a little calendar, 2 or 3 alarm clocks on it. You had a lot more features, and the display was a lot bigger. It was alphanumeric. And not just simply alphanumeric, but it was literally an LCD screen with a backlit, and it had more colors than the LED screens of the old flip phones back in those days. So think back. Let's take you way back. But let's go further into the future, and we're dealing with the phones that I just explained. Like, I remember AudioVox came up with a really fancy phone, and I bought one of those. I was with AirTouch in Los Angeles, and this was during the time when cell phones weren't nationwide. Cell phone providers, you would be local within a certain county. So I remember that San Diego County, LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, Ventura, and a few other counties around there, I was able to take my cell phone anywhere there. If I went outside the county, I got into roaming charges. Okay. So fine, we have roaming. So let's think further ahead. I remember when I got my third phone. My first phone was a PC 550. My second phone was an AudioVox. My third phone was a Sony Ericsson, and it was really, really tiny. That was the time of the very tiny phones. Now we're thinking to year 2001, 2002. We still haven't really seen a smartphone just yet. Even though Windows Mobile and Palm were just about to come out with these devices. Windows Mobile said, hey, we got Windows Mobile 1.0, and it has very simple navigation. It was very slow, and it did, sync up your emails. It did a few things, and it was probably more powerful than Windows for a computer, Windows 3.1, okay? It was probably just that powerful. Then we got into smartphones. And even though we still have a lot of phones out there that have proprietary OSs on it, even the proprietary OSs, I remember, let's see, what was my phone that I had recently before I bought my Sony Epics? It was, I'm trying to remember, it was a Motorola, it's the top of my head, is at the top of my head. It was a flip phone, and I remember this phone. It was very fancy. It had Java. It was Java based in a lot of parts. So because it was Java based, it had a very simple browser. You could browse simple websites that just have text. You can also browse websites that were WAP enabled. And I remember releasing my first WAP enabled site years and years ago, and thinking that how important it would be for everybody to have a WAP site. Now it's not like that anymore. We got Safari, and we got Internet Explorer on Windows phone. We got Chrome on Androids now. So now we got these fancy phones, Androids, Blackberries. Blackberries started coming out, and Blackberries were very expensive phones, and they still are. They still are very expensive. On a 2-year contract, you could probably get one for like $299. I'm talking about the really expensive ones, touchscreen and all that good stuff. So we're growing. I mean, and it's growing fast. Within the last, I'm going to say 15 years, from the time where I had a pager back in 1994 with PageNet. Yes, I had a pager with PageNet. Then I had an alphanumeric pager. Then I got my first cell phone, PC 550, in 1995 with AirTouch. Then I got with LA Cellular. And this was when there was only 2 cell phone providers in any given town. Now there's like, half a dozen, probably more than a dozen. It's like 24 to 30 different cell phone networks. And we're talking about the ones that like Cricket and stuff like that, Boost Mobile, and on top of the big dogs like AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and a few others. I remember when I went to Germany, they had, and I don't remember the exact name, but I think it was called T-Mobile there too. And T-Mobile was nowhere to be found in the States. It was pink and grayish colors was the colors that they use. And I came to the States and I saw T-Mobile everywhere. I was like, where did T-Mobile, did Germany take over this country? I was really surprised to see that. Well, so, cell phone technology, I believe, of tomorrow, I say by 2012, we're going to see iPhone, let me see, it's iPhone 4, so we're going to see iPhone 6. iPhone 6 is going to have 3D projectory. It's going to turn your bedroom into a holodeck, and Android will be able to contact your car and direct your car to your driveway, and then you tell your phone, take me to work. It will take you to work, and then your car, you can tell your phone, okay, go back and pick up wife. And the car will go back and pick up the wife, take her to work. I mean, and then your phone will be controlling your car, your stereo system, your house, your alarm system. It's going to control every bit of your life there is, including implants into your eyeballs. Yes, that is all coming up. Believe it or not, and if you look at this article, it's a very interesting article. There is a blind woman who is now able to see because of computerized implants. They simply inserted a chip into her eyeball, fixed her eyeball up a little bit with some laser surgery so it can focus, and hooked it up to the optic nerve, and she is now able to see. So she can see just as much of picture quality as a high definition camera. And I tell you, I bet she is jumping for joy just because she is now able to see an IMAX quality picture in her skull. That is something else, isn't it? That is something else. So imagine if we can do that, install a video camera in your eyeballs. Imagine installing infrared, night vision, x-ray vision like Superman, so I can see what color panties my wife is wearing. This is all coming up, folks. The internet will be involved, and all you got to do is install like a small little antenna at the side of your skull, right outside your skull or something, or maybe in the back of your head, to receive the 6G network that's going to be happening in the next few years. The 6G under the terahertz frequency, whatever. I mean, I'm going off right now, but it's exciting to know that I mean, I'm not looking forward to the implants, okay? I am old school. I like my electronics external, okay? I like my internals to be simply that, internal. But who knows? When the technology does come out and it's proven, it's been out for a few years, I may be, I want to get the next iPhone 8. And it's built in. And all I need is 1 hour of surgery. Or may not even need that. It may just be something simple as they inject something into you, nanobites get in there and build the thing inside your head for you. Hey. I know. This is pretty crazy. Crazy thoughts here. I'll be right back with Angelo Fernando. And thank you for, again, for listening to MobiCast. That's right, MobiCast. At MobiCast. I have a very good friend. He is a wonderful person. I met him a few times already regarding just talking about mobile phones, where it's going, how's it going. His name is Angelo Fernando. He writes for several blogs. He works on at a radio station. He just really great guy. I'd like to introduce Angelo Fernando. How you doing?
Hey, Antonio. Good to be on your show.
Well, thank you very much.
For a while.
And I want to thank you very much for being here, too. This is, I already had one guest speaker on my show, but I haven't had an interview yet on this show, so I definitely want to thank you for being the first interview.
Oh, this is great.
Okay, and what we're going to talk about today is the future of the internet and where it's going, but before we get into that, I'd like to talk about your experiences and the things you've done in the past.
Oh, I'm sure the latter will be much easier. The future of this whole internet thing is a minefield. Every time we want to talk about it or we think we know where it's going, it completely sidetracks us and does something different. But so what have I been doing? I mean, are you talking about what I've been doing recently or just some background?
Just some background, some experiences, the things you have accomplished. Like, I understand you're working at a radio show right now. You're actually hosting?
Yes, co-hosting would be the more appropriate word, but we started this show with, that is Derek Maines, the CEO of Green Nurture, and I started this show. It's in Phoenix. It's on KFNX 1100 at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. So it's a completely new experience for both of us, but interestingly, and since we're talking about podcasting, I might as well say that once you're into podcasting, radio is actually, I hate to say this, but it sounds very easy.
Now you're saying that it sounds very easy, but are you saying that it's harder or?
No, what I mean is, when you do podcasting, like I have been doing for more than a year now, you have to do everything from, finding the guests to hosting the show to publishing it, editing it, doing all of that. Now, to do a radio show, you have to do some of that, but, you have a producer, and the producer really controls the timing and all that, and you just have to concentrate on the content. Of course, we have to concentrate on the guests, but it's pretty interesting how it becomes a very manageable format, especially if you have guests on the show. You can concentrate on the conversation and not worry about the technology. And I think that's kind of applies to a lot of things we do. We tend to be obsessed with the technology and then forget about the content, or at least the content seems to be something we have to then struggle to pay attention to because the technology is overpowering.
And that's true. A lot of people who do podcasts, they have to worry about, like the audio levels, the audio problems I was having, when you work for a radio station, you have engineers, like you say, you have producers, you have a lot of people working for you, and for larger radio shows, of course, they have a lot more people to work with you. So, has that been being on the radio? Is that a different feeling? I mean, see, right now I'm recording, and so I can always edit things out, and I know that if I make a mistake, if I cough, it's edited. But how is it different, being on a live radio show?
Good point. Now, for example, if I was to clear my throat like this, which I have to, on a podcast, I can go back and remove it, right?
Right.
Now, on radio, there is a mute button, which you really have sort of a coughing fit coming up. You just mute it out. But then, more beyond that, the fact is that you're live means that two things. You have to be prepared and more confident about what you're going to say. You can't just fumble. You can't just fill the air with nonsense. That's one thing. And the second thing is, and what I mean is, you can't fill it with nonsense and then go back and say, oh, can I just add this? You cannot do that. And the second thing is, you have to be able to, keep that conversation going with the guest, so that you keep, a flow going. Because sometimes the guest might just climb up, right? And the guest sometimes is not in front of you. Now, we always have, as our guest, we have two guests on every show at the beginning. One is in the studio and one is remote. So we don't see that guy or the gal. Now, for some reason, if that guest just answers the question and then that does not continue, then you have to engage him and get him to, keep chatting with you or to your listeners. So that's a different experience, and it's not something you can prepare for adequately. But I guess I've listened to a lot of radio shows, from the British BBC style shows to the ones over here in NPR, and they make it seem easy, but it is a technique that you have to, I guess, learn.
It is definitely a technique, because I know you have to segue into other things like the Future of the Internet, and it's this website that I found on the internet that it was very interesting. It was actually posted by Alyssa Milano on a tweet, and Serenity, my wife, found it, and then I read it, and I was like, wow, this guy has a lot of good points here, and some is far-fetched, but some is actually makes good sense too. And what I like to talk about is the mobile aspects of that, because in this podcast and other podcasts, I mentioned that mobile is going to take over the mobility of the laptop. Instead of taking your laptop with you, you're going to at least have a tablet or some type of mobile phone. What do you see as far as the future is concerned?
Well, yes. I mean, I was going to say, hasn't it already? I mean, to a certain extent, most people are using their phones as a laptop replacement device. So I'm not saying completely, but whenever we go to places, we first reach for our phone and then reach for our laptop. So, or to put it another way, if you leave the house and you forget your laptop and you forget your phone, what would you miss most?
Exactly.
And most people would definitely say the phone. And it's not because of the phone calls you can make, obviously, because that's one thing, but it's not difficult to find a place to get a phone call. But it is the connectivity that it gives you and the ability to opt in and out of different things, whether it's Foursquare or whether it's just checking up on a blog or just even looking for an address sometimes. Phone is so much easier than firing up your laptop and going to Google Maps. So yeah, I think the phone is changing a lot of the things we do, and it's becoming a multimedia device that's more, if not powerful, more versatile than a laptop can ever be.
And that's very true. I mean, the mobile phones today are definitely a lot more powerful than, let's say, a computer built in 2001 or something like that. Like the iPhone 4, very powerful phone. A lot of the Android phones are very powerful. So what do you see coming up in the next, let's say, 5 years as far as mobile technology is concerned?
One thing is, I read a lot about it, and maybe I write about this. but it is the concept of the phone or the device you carry. We should stop even calling it a phone. Knowing where you are and basically bringing in information based on the relevance of your location. So that, I mean, on a simple level, it already does that. If you switch time zones, your phone tends to, you're supposed to switch the time zone and, update you on the time of the place where you are. And I travel quite a bit, and, even when I go to Asia, for example, I just almost take it for granted that I don't have to change the clock on my phone for it to tell me, where I am.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, if the phone can also, or the device that we're carrying can also bring in relevant information about the services that we subscribe to, and if I'm, subscribing to, maybe Foursquare or even a blog or an RSS feed, if it can, I see it as the phone should be intelligent enough to basically pull in the feeds relevant to within a certain area where I am. So, excuse me. So I think that's one of the great things about place-based computing, I think they call it. The fact that you'll be able to, maybe that's not the right phrase, but maybe it is something to do with, there is a better way of saying this, I'm not getting it right now, but it's the whole idea of relevance to your location. So that's one thing I like it to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I notice a lot of applications, you're on I don't have an iPhone, but my wife does, and she has an iPhone 3GS. And a lot of the application does make, it does alert you and say, hey, this application needs your location. Do you want to opt into it? Yes. And I wish I had like a standard setting saying opt all applications, but that's, I guess, probably coming up in the future. But it's really nice is that no matter where we're at, I mean, we're looking for a doctor, and we were able to just punch it in and told us every doctor closest to us from the location we were standing at, so that was good information. Coupons, I mean, it just gave us all the coupons based on our location to those stores, and also told us what sales happening at one store, where you can get cheaper this and cheaper that. So it is really interesting that these phones are doing that these days. Now, as far as mobile marketing, what do you feel should these developers of apps and the people who want to sell their business, what do you think they should do to increase the mobile usage?
I mean, first of all, I think they need to educate us, because everybody has an app, or everybody seems to have some way of reaching out to me as a consumer. But I don't think they're doing a good job of telling me how to do it. I give a good example is I've been using smart tags and quick response codes, and I was using Microsoft Tag Reader for a long time, and I realized that some of the tags I find are not Microsoft Tag readable. So I had to get the B tag, and I think it was maybe after having a conversation with you a few weeks or a month or two ago, and I realized that nobody's telling me this, so unless I know someone like you who tells me this, or unless I dig deep into some tech blog, which I would, because I write for technology, but the average person won't, they're not going to be able to push these services at you. And I'm using push in the wrong way here, but I mean is target you. Because eventually these are going to be opt-in services. So, consumers should feel that when they, let's say I'm traveling to Boston, and I'm on the tube and on the subway, and I see some service and I'm new to that area and I want to find out more, I take my phone and snap something up and nothing happens. Now what do I do? Happens. He hasn't taken the trouble to educate me, a visitor to the city, that I need to follow these 3 steps. So I think the education component has been completely, underplayed a lot, because technology and people in this space, I think we talk too much to to people like us and not to people who are new to this area. And we think that, okay, we get it, we have it on our phone, that everybody will.
Right.
It's not. It's amazing that the people who would consider themselves tech savvy, completely stumble over these things. And I don't blame them. Somebody has to educate them. So I don't know whether that's part of the answer to your question about what should they do.
I know it was late last year when I found out about QR code for the first time. It was this lady I was working for. She had QR code for her contacts on her phone, and she had and so what she does is she brought up as a picture, and then people can scan it, and then people are like, well, what is this? I've never seen this before. And I was like, yeah, what is that? A QR code. Okay, I never heard of that before. Actually, she didn't know what the name of it was. All she knew was some type of barcode. She didn't know the name, and she's not computer savvy at all, but she was just, happy that her phone had this QR code generator, and people can just scan it and get her contact information. But you're right, the knowledge is not there for people. You see the tags, and it's like, it just says get the free mobile app at gettag.mobi, but what do you do with that?
And then what happens next? Once you get it, what do you do next?
Exactly.
Let me give you another example. I went with a company to a conference end of last year, and we took business cards with QR tags on it, which are pretty cool because, we were a green company, and we were trying to talk about the fact that we didn't bring brochures and we didn't bring a lot of printed material because we didn't believe in using paper. But we took it, and actually these were what we called media kits, which are on the back of a business card with a QR tag. So that was our media kit. In the media room, we had all these companies putting up their huge folders with lots of pages in it, and here was our little 2 by 3 inch card with a QR tag, and that was our media kit. So in theory, that was pretty cool because it's like made a statement. But I could see, and I talked to some journalists, and they took up the card, they looked at the back, and they were saying, what's this? What do I have to do next? And that's the point I realized that, there's no point leaving a card without some instruction or without a person to explain this. And to a certain extent, that got us some mileage and got us some stories and, all that. But on another level, you can think that there could be out of 10 journalists who would pass by, only one probably would have taken the trouble to look into this, what the heck is a QR tag, and, maybe this is a cool company and I need to cover it. So, as cool as it sounds, I think, the mobile interface is still new to even the people who cover this space, and I'm talking of tech journalists here.
And I think that's very true, and in the fact that I think what would help too is if we saw it on a commercial, if Microsoft actually did some campaigning to show people scanning the tags and stuff like that. I know they have a few commercials already, but I haven't seen them on TV.
Right. By the way, so I might as well give a shameless plug here. So Green Nurture was the company, and Microsoft actually was so impressed or happy at that time that we used it in the early stages that they did a segment. They have a YouTube channel on QR tags. So if you search the QR tags or on the smart, what do they call it? Tag reader?
Microsoft Tag.
Yeah. They have a segment on us on Green Nurture. So it was good. So they were using us as an example of how you might be able to use your tag here.
Okay, I'm definitely going to look for that. I'm definitely going to search for that and put that in the blog as well if I can find it. And I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And can you give us a couple of websites real quick that you blog on the most?
Oh, okay. Wow. So the one in the Valley for listeners here would be go to Valley PR blog, because there are 5 of us PR folks, and I'm not a pure PR guy, but I cover social media for Valley PR blog, and it's a pretty interesting site because you get 5 different opinions, and it's an aggregation of blogs. So that's one, valleyprblog.com. Now my blog is, because I like to do everything out of my blog, is Hoi Polloi Report. That's HOI POLLOI report.com.
Wonderful.
And then the others, of course, my blog and some of my posts are usually syndicated by Social Media Today, and that's the other place you might find me.
Wonderful, and I want to thank you very much for doing the interview today. And I would like to invite you back sometime in the future to do another one. Is that okay?
Yeah, we should do this, and we should maybe talk a little more in depth about one of the applications so that we can get a little more specific, so that we can actually demo it on the air maybe.
Well, it sounds like a radio date. I want to say thank you again, and I'll be right back with MobiCast. Come on back.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And I want to thank again, I want to give a big thank you to Angelo Fernando for, being a guest on the show. And I will be inviting him back because the next show I want to talk more about his career and about, what he's doing to grow the mobile world as well as the internet world. Because without the internet, we wouldn't have mobile, or at least mobile communications that I talk about in the show, because the internet is very important. We need to have good content out there like this show. I know. If you guys will comment sometime and say something, it would be nice to know that I'm doing a good job here. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and end this show at this moment, and I want to say thank you again, Angelo. Definitely will be bringing him back, and so we can talk some more about mobile technology. I got a few other guests showing up, and I'm not going to say who they are, but it's still in the works. And I would like to say, please go to my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/mobicast.mobi. Yes, it's MobiCast.mobi, because MobiCast is already taken. So that's facebook.com/mobicast.mobi. You can also visit myspace.com/mobicast.mobi. Even though there's nothing on it whatsoever, if you're on MySpace, go ahead, find me, add me, and I would eventually add you as well, because I don't go to MySpace that much. But most importantly, on Twitter, go to twitter.com/mobicast.mobi, and befriend me, hit me up, send me a message, direct DM me, okay? Just do a hookup. Not that kind of hookup. Keep your mind together. But we can definitely do some discussions and talk about IAMAT. If you want to talk about that, that's my business that I'm running. That's at iamat.mobi. Or we can talk about mobile phones, mobile technology. We can talk about QR code, Microsoft Tag. We can talk about increasing the speeds of the internet. Why are some sites still not mobile? Hello. Bradley McGar, I visited his site on the computer many times, but I never went to his site on the mobile. And I decided, you know what, let me go ahead and do this. I went to his site, I was like, oh, he now has a mobile site. Great for him. Because I was about to say, dude, why are you talking all that bull? No, I'm playing. Bradley, I'm just playing. But I'm glad to see that he is using the same mobile plugin that it's mobile, it's WordPress mobile. No, it's a mobile WordPress for I'll put the link in the window, okay, in the post. But if you have a WordPress, definitely install the mobile package, because it will definitely make a big difference on your mobile listeners or readers. If you have a simple blog, or if you have a really good blog, to podcast and blog like this site here, or just simply a podcast. Definitely make your site mobile. Anyway, that's mobicast.mobi. Please add a comment, and I want to thank you very much for joining today. Good night, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good midnight. Peace. Hello, this is Antonio Edward at MobiCast, and I just want to say that I'm very happy to. Let me start that over again, please.
The show begins now.
Okay. Let's keep the recording going. Welcome to MobiCast. This is Antonio Edward, and I want to thank you for joining me once again on the quest for discussing mobile phones. You can find me at mobicast.mobi for those of you who are streaming this or listening to this podcast on a different website, like iTunes, Podcast Alley, Podcast Pickle, and there's a bunch of others. If you're listening to it there, just go to mobicast.mobi. I welcome everybody to always comment on the site, to make your own suggestions, to say, hey, this is my own opinions about what you just said. I feel that Microsoft Tag is better than QR code. Oops, nah. I just did a poll.